Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all on this bright, cheery day right after the solstice. Well, a couple weeks ago, I was asked to speak it was at a Unitarian church, and I was told that they wanted me to speak on the topic of presence. That presence, this time of year, you got to be careful with that word. Make sure you got the right presence in mind here. I was going to try to make a joke out of that somehow, but it's too dangerous. So anyway, but I was asked to speak on that, and well, that was what was given to me. And at first, um, my first reaction was I was about to turn. I got it, I think, in an email or card or something, the invitation. But so I had a moment or a little while to think about it, and I thought, we don't really make that much use of this word presence in our practice. Maybe we do, maybe I don't, but I don't know. And so I thought, I don't know if I have much to say about that. So I was inclined to turn them down, but then as I was thinking about it more, I realized, well, maybe I could say a little about why I'm turning you down, but then I didn't have to turn them down because now I had something I could talk about. And then when I got there, so my understanding was say something on the theme of presence. And when I got there, that what they had written into their schedule was that my talk was on the practice of presence. And I thought, well, that's that's a bit different. I think I would have plenty to say there. And I did have something to say about the word presence, but the problem with the word presence, so today's talk will be, I'll title this one on the practice of presence. But the problem with that word, could you just rotate that slightly? That's reflecting, I can't see it. Okay, thank you. But where was I now? Well, the problem, yeah. The problem we have with this word presence, or that maybe we don't really use it that much, is well, what exactly are we talking about when it comes to this matter of presence? And are we talking about being present, or what exactly is that? And the problem I think that we have, what was rolling in the back of my mind as I thought about talking about this, but we have this teaching, the Anata doctrine, that all things are without self. And I felt like I couldn't say too much about this matter of presence without talking about that a little bit, which is a pretty difficult topic, even for you students who've been practicing this and listening to these teachings and reading and studying for years. That's a difficult teaching, this teaching of not self, the Anata doctrine. And I thought, well, how can I lay this on people most of whom perhaps have never really encountered much in the way of Buddhist teachings? And surely some of them have. Among Unitarians, they look at many things. And it's always wonderful to speak at a Unitarian gathering, which I've done quite a few times. And an interesting group of people, very open and ready to look into various things. But it's just that this happened to be a topic that I found would be difficult to say much on without delving pretty deeply into some pretty subtle teachings of our own here. But I'll say a little bit about what I presented here, but most of you already know most of what I'll say here. But just to kind of get us in the right frame here. So this matter of presence, when we commonly talk about it, we talk about maybe the presence of somebody in this room, or just this room itself, or various individuals. They command, they have a commanding presence, or something like this. And we can look at it many different ways. We speak of presence of mind, and but in every case, I mean, that would be, basically to bring ourselves here among the various things that are present, and particularly with presence of mind, where it's often noted where somebody's under a great deal of stress or difficulty or whatever, and yet they were able to retain their mind, their presence of mind, to speak rationally or calmly or whatever, or to the point. So we've used the term in many ways like that in our general parlance, as we talk. But in every case, I think, if we just look at this, how we commonly might use that word, there's an assumption in the mind that would be speaking of this, or listening to someone speaking of this. There's a kind of an assumption in mind that there's something here, that there's something present. And well, what exactly would that be? And this is what our teaching and what our practice is about, is to just bring ourselves right here to this moment. And can I say to this place? Where is here anyway? Or this moment even? What do we mean by that? But when we don't turn our attention to this in this way, we can pretty easily talk about presence and being present, or someone has a certain presence about them or whatever. Or we go into a space maybe where we've had some interesting experiences, perhaps from our childhood, playing games with friends or whatever, and you haven't been in that room for 50 years or something. You go back, and there's a certain presence maybe there. Or a place where you've been with someone and they've passed away or something like this. And you go back to that place maybe where you've spent many a time just sitting at the kitchen table talking or whatever. And you might still feel a presence. So we talk about it in this way, in all these different ways. But there's always the assumption of being, of something there or someone there. And well, if we settle down and look carefully at what it is that the awakened teach, what it is that they say, they don't talk in these terms. There isn't this assumption of thingness. Jamie Douglas in England spoke here. Well, he spoke via, what is it, YouTube or something, not YouTube, what is it? Well, Zoom, yeah. And anyway, we use this term thingness, or thinging. Talked about thinging. This is what we do. We thing things. we're thinking things. We think them up, but it's always this is how we're seeing everything, pretty much, in terms of thingness. And there's a presence of something there now. Well, we could say here, but we also think of maybe we speak of there. They weren't there then, or whatever, and put in time and put in space and all of this. But this is right. There's nothing but presence, and it is just here now. This is presence, and there's no such thing as non-presence. You can consider this for a moment. What on earth would non-presence be? There's only presence. Or we could say, you know, it's a 100% presence or zero. But we don't really define that. What we have is just presence. And this is what the awakened take note of, that it is only here now that we have what presence? Well, this is reality with a capital R. There is no other time, no other place than here now. We think, well, to speak of presence in the past, presence of certain things that were there in the past or whatever. Yeah, we talk this way, but this is thought. These are concepts, these are ideas, impressions, memories. It's all mental. But actual presence, those are just ideas of presence. And what this practice is about is coming to just right here, now, and not dwelling in ideas or reliving something over and over again and making it more and more real in your mind, even though every time you recall it, it's changing. Your editing is changing in spite of yourself. And but we spend so much of our time doing that, or thinking about the future, fearing the future, or longing for something in the future, or, you know, just imagining things. But all the while, our minds are just kind of racing about in things that we're just creating, making up. This isn't being present, even as we commonly might think of being present. It's sort of like we're not here, which is very unfortunate considering that all there is here. All there is now. And in that regard, then all there is presence. It's just simply thus. But we spend so much of our time, maybe nearly all of it, in a constructed mental world that we've created, or it's been foisted on us in various ways, or we've made it out of various things that we've encountered and structured in certain ways. So we all have different takes on all of this, whatever might be happening now. But we're living out of our thought, out of our thinking, out of our views, out of our beliefs, those things that we'll construct here mentally and then think are true, real. And from the awakened would see all of this as delusion. Delusion. Delusion is what? Well, we're looking at this illusory panorama of this and that and coming and going and things happening and all of this. But it's illusory, lacks any kind of substantiality, thingness in how we naively think that we can have a thing or something. So we're caught up in all of that, but it's illusory and we don't realize it, but we believe it. I mean, this is where our thoughts are. This is what we think is true. And we want to manipulate the various things that we see and hear and influence maybe others to, you take this up and you do that. And so we end up with political views and religious views and all kinds of ideas here. And then we fight over all of these things, or we feel driven to, put that down or build this up, or it's endless with us. But the awakened would say that this is delusion. We're caught up in delusion. That is, we're caught up in believing in, trusting in, living out as though it were real, this imaginary world. It's not the world that's actually being experienced. It's all in our conceptual constructs, in our ideas, in our thinking. It is not part of the perceptual, the direct, immediate experience of just us. So that's what this practice then is to bring ourselves back to just this, here now. And without thought. It doesn't mean we drive out thoughts any more than we drive out the, say, images of this or that, or past events, or future appointments, or whatever it might be in your daily life. But what we learn to do is to not lose sight of just this. This is where reality is being lived out. Just this. It's, we could say, now, or here now. When I write about this, I will italicize the here and the now in that way, because this is not here as opposed to some other place. There isn't any other place than here. No, there's no other time. No. Time itself is illusory. Time itself is a mentally constructed thing. That's why you can't be present in the past. The past isn't here, or the future. Or you can't be present now, and for those of us sitting here, like say in Texas. Texas is not here. I've been to Texas a few times. Yeah, so we can say something like that, but that's a memory. That's an idea. It's always just here now. It's no particular place, and it's no particular time. You could say present moment. We talk about it, we put it into time. We say the present moment, but already, when I spoke of that, that's gone. Where did it even go? So, but we spend all of our time in our minds making all of that real and substantial, and discussing that and working with that and trying to manipulate it and get our way with this or that or one thing or another. And it's endless with us. We run into conflicts with people in carrying on in this way and all of that. But this practice, what it is that the awakened teach, is just to come back to this moment. Just not even this moment, just come back to here now. Even to say here now, even italicized, if I were writing it. That is still too much. It's to wordlessly come back to just this. It's just wordlessly this, wordlessly. It's not even to come back, because actually we never leave here now. But of course we know in our minds, yeah, it seems like we leave, we wander around. Told I'm sitting here in meditation, I don't have any idea that I'm doing that. And then at some point, maybe, oh yeah, here I am. And then I start to reconcentrate and all that. And of course, then we might scold ourselves, or say, oh, I can't do this. And we keep messing around with stuff like that. Just if you notice you wandered off, just come back. It doesn't mean now to forget everything. Somebody wrote to me, they asked me some questions tangential to what I'm talking about now, but had the impression I was suggesting that maybe thinking is bad. We have Dogen, he points out in Fugan Zazengi, think not thinking. This is the heart of Zazen, And, but it doesn't mean that thinking is bad, or that we should never think. No, but when you do think, see if you can think well, with presence, just right here, with reality, with what is taking place, not in worrying about some fantasy construct in your mind and what to do about that or what to do about them or any of that stuff. Just see if you can, just let that go. If it's coming through your mind, that's fine. Just be present here. To sit like Yakusen, Hagen. His teacher Sekito challenged him on this, but I've talked about this enough. But where his teacher says, "What are you doing?" Yakusan said, I'm not doing anything. Yeah, this is, so you're sitting idly. If I was sitting idly, I'd be doing something. It's getting to that understanding, that realization. And it doesn't mean now then that thinking is bad or something. So I'm sitting here, but here I'm thinking, I dwell on that. But what are you doing now? Look at what you're doing. You don't need to do that. You just don't need to do that. It might be helpful if you can kind of remind yourself of that before you go spinning off again. But that's what this practice is. And to come back to this, just here now, again and again. Not necessarily abandoning all thoughts. I mean, if thoughts are occurring, that's what's here now. You don't need to be obsessed with them. You don't need to chase after them or build them up or try to shoo them away. That's no, the awakened don't teach that. But that's how strong our thinking is. We'll make that up and we'll hear that. As this young man wrote to me, perhaps he thought I was saying that thinking is bad. No, it's not bad. Don't forget the wise Chinese farmer, another thing, that's from Taoism, but who can say what's good or bad? Yeah, this was fortunate, but that led to something unfortunate, which led to something fortunate. And where are we with that? That's our clutching and desiring and wanting it to be a certain way and trying to force it. This is about sanity, returning to just here and now and see how the mind is working, how it works. We don't need to stop it or change it or anything. Just be aware of that and realize you don't have to pursue this or that. You don't want to leave here now, but you will. I do too. I've been practicing this, I don't know, well over 50 years. I don't know how long. But it's not like you master it. I haven't mastered it. But I've come to really understand just what the practice is. And it isn't about forcing myself to do something I don't want to do. And then if I do it badly and I scold myself or whatever. I remember long ago, we all kind of approach it that way, I think, where we get those ideas. But these are just ideas we're making up. If you consider very carefully what the awakened teach, there's some teachings out there that are also kind of confused. I'll admit that. But if we can get to the source, the heart of these teachings, none of that stuff is being said. You're not directed to do anything like that. You're not directed to grip anything in any particular way, or to get the idea that this is right as opposed to wrong. When the Buddha spoke of right view, he wasn't talking about any particular view. And he contrasted that with frozen views, things that we clutch and hang on to. We think, oh, this. And if you hear the Dharma being spoken, if you're interpreting it that way, it's possible the person who's offering it is handing it to you that way. That can happen. But all the while, whatever it is, it doesn't matter if it's, true Dharma being pointed out or something false. Just watch your mind and bring yourself just back to this. There isn't some point, some idea, something, okay, yeah, now I'm on the beam again here. That's delusion again already. If you're thinking, you got words for that, you're putting it into various forms or drawing conclusions from it all, that's all delusion. I don't say that delusion is bad, but that's what it is. But the part that we might think of as bad, but we're missing the point, is that we get caught by that. We don't realize but it's all of this stuff in this world of forms is illusory. To buy any of it, to hang on to any of it, this is what delusion is. Enlightenment is nothing more than seeing what that is. And with that, now, poorly or maybe or good. There's good and bad again. But we can start to walk with that understanding. And not get too disturbed when suddenly we realize, I'm off the track again. This is what our precepts are all about, is the few major areas where we might just step off the path. Nobody condemns you there, you know, anything like that. Identifies it as sin or something like that. It's just reminding us, what is it when we step off the path? Any number of ways. And then the thing is, just come back. That's all. There's no shaming, no blaming, no browbeating or whatever. So I'm looking at the clock here because I'm not supposed to talk for too long. So we don't have a time. Mary was reminding us of that last week. So, I'm coming up to the half-hour mark here, but I didn't start till a little after the hour started. So I don't think it means I have to stop at 10:30. But maybe I've said enough. If you have any questions or anything you want to comment on, or yes.
Our minds are such that, yes, awareness of right here where we are, here in this room, all of that.
Well, if we're fully aware, we're not even here, like in this here in this room.
There's a film about Bob Dylan's, it was called I'm Not Here. But anyway. If you listen to the news at all, and I think most of us have to take a lot of news breaks these days because there's a lot of very upsetting things that are going on all over the world, and we can be aware that there are people in Texas and people in Syria and people in other countries, that we have a planet here, that there are other people that when they're there, that's their here, right here. And I was considering just kind of, because it sort of relates to some things that are, for lack of a less hackneyed term, that are on my plate in life, right now, for a long time, it seems. What has happened in Syria? And I consider the perpetrators, the Assad regime, that is from a minority. It was really an apartheid state for 50 years because the Alawites is a sect of Islam that is a minority. And I wondered, in the arising of the Assad dictatorship, that family, how the Alawites had been treated, how humans, we're so tribal and we tend to think safety in numbers. We still have this reptilian brain or whatever from whenever we crawled out of the soup or whatever. And
Catherine, you're using specific examples of how people have been abused and all this.
yeah, and
it's endless.
that they can get broken. They can get broken.
Yes, but what I'm saying, just look at the fabric of this human world that we're in.
Yeah.
And how it's been even for millennia.
Yeah.
And who knows beyond that.
I'm not like an apologist for the Assad regime.
No, but and here it's, of course, in this present moment, as it seems to be unfolding here now, there's the issues of the day that can really strike us hard.
Yeah.
And all of that. And but we constantly fall back into this, or are living out of this, and we perpetuate it. What I was speaking to here today is a way that we can become free of being entangled in this ourselves. We're still in this world. It isn't like we go anywhere here.
Maybe we just
but you're not going to solve it by going off into the constructed world of our thoughts and our beliefs and things like this, and what really should be done. Pretty soon we'll be fighting about that. And what I'm trying to offer here is that the awakened, they teach in such a way they don't say anything about that, really. won't even really
Well, they
label
were
it.
probably aware
won't-
of things
won't e-
going on in their world.
Won't even label, of course,
Yeah,
but won't even label it good or bad or, because that is not helpful. There isn't anything, you know, to really say about that. It is this matter of find out, you know, learn this practice of just realizing what's taking place before you're swept away once again by an issue of this or that. You still have, you probably have to deal with it in some way, but it's might be more helpful if we can do this out of awakeness rather than out of being caught in the fray ourselves.
and I think what you're advocating is very powerful because really what you're saying is think globally, act very, very locally. Seriously.
Well, yeah,
Because when we change
yeah,
our way of being in the world because
I'm not
we are
even, yeah,
working
but
on
see,
these
I'm not
things.
talking about changing.
No, 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 no,
but-
no. Are
But
we not? We're not?
no.
How
No.
come?
Well, it's just like as with Yakusan, who's just sitting there. I'm not doing anything. He's just practicing awareness. Now,
That
things
has some
are
positive
well,
effects though,
well,
doesn't it?
don't look at it that way.
Oh, okay.
So
All right, we need to give up
we have to
that.
stop thinking
No,
in these
no.
terms. We stop thinking in these terms of good or bad.
Okay,
If you have to substitute something there, just think in terms of wholeness and of, you know, partiality or, you know, that sort of thing, where the world is divided up and fractured, or our own mind, or our own social context, or the nations of the world, or whatever it might be. It's all plays the same game. And it's a matter of just realizing that we easily fall into that.
yeah,
And we as human beings, because of our huge intellects on all of this, we're very good at building these huge, complicated structures that are even way beyond anything that we ourselves can handle. And we're still thinking, this is an amazing thing, a good thing, we're plunging headlong into that and all that. And I'm not saying this is good or bad or anything. I'm just pointing out, look at what it is. This is utter insanity. And what this teaching, what this practice is about is to take ourselves out of this insanity, or at least so we can learn a way to step back before we get too caught up. And of course, we can easily be pulled away again, but come back. You're still interacting with the world and with other people and all of this. That doesn't change.
yeah.
But we can either be doing this with a mind that's kind of settled and present and with an eye of wisdom involved with this, which is seeing things in their totality, or we can be caught up in the fractured world. And yeah, but that's so bad what they're doing. We should be doing this over here. But in a sense, if you look carefully, you're doing the same thing. That sort of thing isn't the solution. The trouble we're suffering from is just look at what that is.
My heart was moved so much because my father was a World War II veteran and drove convoy into some of these concentration camps and saw some of these mass graves.
Mhm.
He was very hurt. He was grieving the loss of his father while he was over there, and he enlisted when he was 19, a child, basically.
Mm.
So, you know, we're dealing with people having to find out what happened to their loved ones in these most horrific ways.
Yes.
So it's like another, you know, Nazi thing again. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
I know we keep perpetuating it, but we keep having, I think we need, I know,
Can you-
Buddhists
can you-
say, don't,
can
hope
you-
is the other side of fear or something, don't hope
Can-
anything.
But
I
we'll
don't
just look at, see how this easily gets brought
I
up
know,
again.
it turns up our.
And of course, you want to resolve it and solve it. Now, I do too, but I also realize that the world doesn't work that way.
I know.
It
Well,
works, it works in a way that will take care of this situation. But that involves a lot more than we have time for here.
So anyway, thank you so much
Yeah.
for your responses. I have a lot out of them. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody have a question or anything, or? Okay, well, we're well within the time zone, or I've used it up, so. Thank you.